All right, I want to check out this video here. We've got LGBT Conservatives by Finding Sky. This will be very interesting.
With conservatism traditionally holding an anti-gay position, being LGBT often meant that you were defaulted to the Democratic Party. But over the last decade, it seems like LGBT members who consider themselves conservative have been popping up left and right.
Oh my god, trust me, I'm a conservative.
And they face a lot of backlash for doing so. Terms like traitor, friendly fire, and my personal favorite, pick me, are common insults thrown around at those who go against the status quo. I recently saw a video with Matt Bernstein and ContraPoints titled LGBT Conservatives that gave me some insight into how people on the left view this group on the right, and I wanted to comment on some of the things they said.
They're freaking mad. They hate people that are they hate people that they believe should be on their side for immutable characteristic reasons. Which is like the irony. Yeah, they hate it when there's like gay people, there's trans people, there's like black people that are conservatives. They hate them. They hate them so much. They hate them like an extraordinary amount, basically.
Yes, queer people should be allowed to be conservative. And I'm not going to like strip them of that, but also I'm still going to unfortunately think less of them.
Take their self-hate and then use that to hate other people and use that to bolster politics that's going to hurt all of us. Well, at a certain point, self-hate has become other hate. You're passing it on.
You want to know the hilarious thing, guys? You want to see a left-wing person say something racist or use like an LGBT slur, just have an LGBT person on the right or a minority on the right, and they'll say the slurs. That's the funny thing. That's like the instant way to get it. They get instantly baited. It's like they go immediately to their first response, which is to do something like that every time.
Sort of projecting it outwards.
If there were straight people running around naked, whipping each other in the street, people would have a problem with that too. So it's not fair to say that it's just projected homophobia that people are condemning this type of extremism.
That's kind of what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying the entire time. It's not LGBT people. It's the degeneracy. It's the absolute like public degeneracy that like nobody has to see. And that's why when things started to shift towards taking children to drag shows, taking children to drag shows, introducing children to like fiction that involves like LGBT like sexual acts or any sexual acts in general. That's when you started to see people who were originally like parents, right? Parents, a lot of parents, especially like women, were very like pro LGBT, right? And then once it started to affect their kids, they're like, okay, you know what? Just kidding, fuck that. That's kind of like what you saw happen, and that's why a lot of this started the instant they started to go for kids. That's when people were like, okay, too far, don't give a shit anymore.
People are going to call out inappropriate behavior, gay or not. When members of our own community are saying that kids and kinks should coexist, people are going to say something. It doesn't matter that the person who was saying that is gay. It would be just as much of an issue if the person saying it was straight. The difference is that gay people already have the stereotype of being sexual deviants. So when stuff like this gets portrayed in the media, it reinforces all of those negative stereotypes. There's got to be people within the LGBT community calling this type of stuff out so that...
And this is the problem, is that the entire LGBT community has become about such ridiculous levels of acceptance that you've created a scenario in which they can't even criticize their own. And then what that leads to is like a lack of gatekeeping. And now you have like the most radical psychos that are in charge of the movement. That's what happened. I know plenty of LGBT people that are against this stuff, but they can't even say anything anymore because people are gonna come after them.
The public can be aware that this type of behavior isn't something that's supported by the entirety of the community. A lot of the LGBT conservative creators aren't even that conservative when you listen to their viewpoints. They're really just kind of moderate or center-right leaning.
Yeah, that's me. I'm basically moderate center-right, and I'm basically Hitler to a lot of these people. I get called a neo-Nazi a lot, and I get called like Hitler a lot. Like actually.
It's just that if you even slightly disagree with the left, you get ostracized and labeled as a homophobic, self-hating, projecting, pick-me, grifter Republican.
Yo, I got called all of those. All of them.
In a certain part of conservative media that like you see more and more queer people occupying, which is the conservative queer influencer. And it's like they amass these really big audiences.
The fact that queer people can occupy these conservative spaces and amass such a large audience.
My suspicious inquisitor says self-hating. I had a girlfriend before, if you didn't know that. It was a long time ago.
Should prove that there is growing acceptance on the right for LGBT. There are tons of videos online saying how people got kicked out of the LGBT community and pushed away from the left, but were perfectly welcomed on the conservative side. Now that doesn't mean that all conservatives are welcoming, but not all Democrats are welcoming either. Even Obama was once against gay marriage.
Whether gays and lesbians should be able to get married, I struggle with this. I have friends.
I have a gay friend.
I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman.
I don't personally consider myself conservative, but I do get grouped in with them because we talk about a lot of similar issues and hold some similar positions. As both a gun owner and a Latina admirer, you can see where I struggle to commit to one political party, but I've always thought of this as a good thing because it allows me to understand both perspectives and be especially vigilant to the way members of each political party portray their viewpoints. This is precisely why I use the sponsor of today's video, Ground News, to see exactly what both sides are
That conspiracy theory is fucking crazy. It would be so wild if it was real.
saying. We've all known how the news can twist headlines to further a political narrative. But with Ground News, you get the advantage of having an overview of
That's like some croco mom shit, dude.
the bias behind the perspective. No matter which side of the political spectrum you're on, Ground News helps you gain insight into how each side frames their stories. Available as both a mobile app and a website, this tool makes it easy to see all angles so that you can come to your own informed conclusion. Each news story has an easy-to-read overview of political bias, including how much of the news coverage is left, right, or center. You can see here...
This is what I mean. Like, if you want to see them, Joel Darkstar says, I get called terrible things because I supported Trump over Kamala. Race traitor, Latino hater. I need to get shipped back to Mexico, even though I'm not Mexican. I love the true colors they show. Yeah, exactly. It's like they go like full mask off. Like the instant you're like, yeah, you know, I don't really agree with you, right? But then they're like, but you're Mexican. You're supposed to agree with us. Like, nah. And like, you're a fucking traitor. It's like they go crazy, dude.
Recent LGBT story about the U.S. Supreme Court upholding its ban for sex changes for minors. It gives you a quick summary of the articles, the number of sources reporting, and breaks down the potential bias from both sides. You can clearly see the differences in headlines, with the right using terms like child mutilation and the left using terms like gender-affirming care. One of their best features is called Blind Spot, where it shows you what news is only being covered by one political side and ignored by the other. It's the best platform to stay informed and escape the algorithms that try to trap you in an echo.
It's like I said, like, you know, the same thing happened with Larry Elder, right? Who's like a black dude. It's like, oh, like blackface of white supremacy, you throw eggs at him, right? Like, it's crazy.
Chamber. For a limited time, you can subscribe to Ground News using the link in my description, or you can scan the QR code up here to get 40% off of their limited access Vantage plan. Thank you so much to Ground News for sponsoring this video, and be sure to visit ground.news/sky. Best plan for just $5 a month.
My favorite one is when people when they tell me when people on the left tell me like Leaf, how can you support Trump when he wants to kill you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, yeah, conservatives, they want to kill you. How does it feel? I'm like, what are you talking about, bro?
That's more of a steal than the 2020 election. A significant portion of this hour-long conversation is them trying to come up with reasons why an LGBT member might be conservative. They raise these possibilities. Maybe they're grifting. Maybe they're a pick-me. Maybe they hate themselves. They keep looking for psychological reasons, but it never occurs to them.
It never occurs to them that their ideas just suck. Right? It's that simple. Like, if you want the truth, the reason is because, you know, like, you know, why am I, you know, not the typical, the typical person, I guess, like they believe, you know, again, I'm trying to get into their head. This isn't what I think. I'm trying to get into their head. Why is Leaflit, who is not the typical straight white male, why is she talking about conservative stuff, right? And it's like, they can't even like parse it in their minds that I could possibly agree with them. That I could possibly agree with like the message of what's being said. Like it's not an issue of like attributes. It's an issue of like the ideas behind what's being said, basically, right?
That maybe it's because their own community has turned on them for having disagreements. Maybe it's because even mentioning that trans women being in women's sports might not be a good idea will get you immediately labeled as transphobic. Maybe it's because any condemning of public indecency at pride parades will get you called a right-wing homophobe. Eventually people are going...
And the thing is like, I feel like this happens a lot where they basically don't actually know what your argument is, right? They think that immediately any sort of disagreement you have with them is because you hate certain people. They immediately go into some, and you know, you know what the funny thing is like, I was thinking about this the other day, like, is it because that's how they work? That like if they don't like something, they immediately go to hating it. It's not about whether or not something, you know, maybe that's why they think that I hate a specific thing, because that's what their mind would go to, you know? And I try to like think about it in terms like that. So I'll give you like a good example. They don't actually understand the argument that you would make. They immediately think it's an issue of hatred and not an issue of like, well, reality exists in this way, and then it's kind of like a give and take, right? It's about compromise, right? So let's use an example of, let's use the example she talked about there, the trans boxing, right? Like this thing, right? Let's use this for an example, right? It's not so like this is just what I think, right? And like I feel like a lot of conservatives feel this too. It's not about hating the trans people. It's about there being a physical advantage that it's unfair. And it's like, that's the reason behind it. It's an unfair act because they have a physical advantage just based on biology. And it's kind of like that unfairness will essentially make it so that it essentially makes it so that only trans women can win women's sports. Does that make sense? Because the physical advantage is like to a level that is almost unsurmountable, especially at the highest level of performance, right? When you get to the highest level of any sort of competition, it's always like the small percentages that count. Like the 0.1% advantage is like enough to sway something when you're at the highest level of something, right? Everything is like so hyper optimized, right? At that point. So that's the agreement behind it, right? So you'll tell them, well, you know, there's a biological advantage, you know, that's the reason. There's really no way around that. So that's why there has to be some kind of limitation at the minimum, right? And then it immediately goes to like, oh, so you hate trans people. It's like, that's not even what I said. That's not even what I said, right? But then that's what they turned it into basically every time. And I mean, you could use this for several other arguments, like, oh, I think welfare is bad. Oh, because you hate black people. Like, wait, what? Like, what are they? Oh, you hate poor people. You want poor people to starve. You want the babies to starve in the inner city. It's like, no, I didn't say that. I think that there's better ways to go about it. No, you hate them. It's always like that every single time. They don't even know what my argument is, basically. I know what their argument is, but they don't know what my argument is. And it always feels like it feels like they don't even care what my argument is, like half the time.
Decency at pride parades will get you called a right-wing homophobe. Eventually people are going to start drifting from a political party that makes no effort to acknowledge any alternative perspectives. People will condemn LGBT members for leaving the left, but did any of us really leave? Or were we shoved out, labeled as right-wing, and then called a traitor? A lot of us actually have a very moderate position, but unfortunately politics have been weaponized to such a degree that people...
Sarah says, I lost a lot of friends because of that kind of behavior. Same.
will invalidate somebody's perspective by labeling them as their opposite
True,
political
friend.
party.
The conservative queer influencer, there's Blair White, there's Ariel Scarcella.
He name drops you.
They started saying trans women are women, and I said, okay. And then they said, well, if you don't find trans women attractive, you're a bigot. And then I would say, you know, like, I don't find every woman attractive. And then I was just like, you know what? Like, I don't have to say it that way. Like, I don't like dick.
Yeah, she doesn't like penis.
They started using terms like genital preference instead of
Genital
sexuality.
preference is the most homophobic thing you can say.
It's
and I
okay
literally
to
went
say
on
stuff like
Jubilee,
that.
And I said that to one of the people. They were like, well, that's
Like, what you're attracted to is nobody's business, in my opinion.
genital preference. They, them, of course. And I was like, there's no such thing as genital preference. There's such a thing as sexual orientation. I don't want to suck a dick. And that was like the main thing that everyone, I knew it was going to go viral on Jubilee.
Yeah.
That's why I said it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's literally the truth.
Well, that's what being a lesbian is not liking wiener.
One of the other reasons I left the left was because
The clarity of that statement, man.
truth.
Well, that's what being a lesbian is not liking wiener.
That's
One of
crazy.
the other reasons I left the left was because the complete changing of words and definitions.
That's not entirely true, though. I feel like, at least in my experience of like knowing people, sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes it's about the relationship role, either the relationship role or the psychological factor. Sometimes it's about that too. For some people that are more like kind of what's the word for it? They're not really like super sexual people. People that aren't like super sexual kind of don't really care. But yeah, if you are, then and you care about that, then that's your right. That's your right to be like, I don't want that, right? Yeah, it's your right. You can like whatever you want. You can like. You shouldn't let anyone shame you for that. That's just what you like.
There's a big difference between being gay and being queer.
Demisexual, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know any of this shit. Demisexual. I don't know any of the terms. But there are people. Sorry, let me clarify. There are people that just the sexual aspect is not as important to them in a relationship. Like me, I'm like that. Like the sexual aspect isn't as important. I mean, it's still like good, but then it's like it's not like the it's like far down in the stack of like priority. Does that make sense?
Being gay is just a sexual orientation.
Like for me, for example, I care more about like if you can like can you land the headshot? Like can you frag some enemy that's like trying to gank me? Like if you can do that, then like that's like huge. Right? Like that matters more to me than like any sort of sexual thing.
The truth is we're not conservatives, really, the majority of us. We're just not.
Like if we got into a real life encounter where like there was a real life shooting, like would you have my back? Like would you be able to would I be able to lay down the suppressing fire and then trust you to push into the flank to take out the threat? That matters more to me than the sexual aspect of a relationship.
Basically, if you don't agree with 100% of their ideologies, you're called a homophobic Republican.
You can't even understand what they're doing without reference to their queerness. The reason that they're saying these things is inextricably tied up with their queerness, right? So no, it doesn't mean like, oh, you're not gay if you vote Republican. It just means that you're a sort of self-annihilating gay person.
I actually feel the complete opposite. I feel like the LGBT people who are conservative have completely decentralized their sexuality as the core of their belief system.
Yep.
I think a lot of gay conservatives chose the right for reasons outside of their sexuality. Maybe they agree more with the economic policies, or maybe because they want less government involvement. There are reasons outside of gay rights that someone would...
Another thing that I think here's another thing I find that the left has trouble with is, and like I don't mean to brag, but I'm kind of gonna brag a little bit. I don't have this problem where I can see like a person on the left and understand that the left is a spectrum, that there's gonna be crazy people on the left and there's gonna be reasonable people on the left, and it's gonna be all in between that, right? But in my experience, a lot of people on the left, it's like, you're either all in or you're fucking Hitler. It's like, and this isn't, again, this isn't everybody. Again, it's a spectrum, but a lot of people, especially like the most outspoken people on the left, it's like you either 100% agree with me or you're literally Adolf Hitler. And it's like, there's no room for like any sort of disagreement of ideas.
choose to be Republican. Just like I personally know Democrats who own guns and support gun rights, there are gay people who support the Republican Party.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone's sexuality doesn't have to be the sole dictator of how they believe the country should be run. It doesn't mean that they are self-hate.
That's true, and that is like the kind of the problem, is a lot of people, and you know, that's a really good point that she brings up. A lot of the people that are really radical, like left people, their immutable characteristics is in their entire character, right? Like your immutable characteristic. I mean, the whole movement of like civil rights was about how your immutable characteristics are not what you should be judged on. Whereas the left has completely flipped this on its head, and the immutable characteristics is everything. Your immutable characteristics is your entire being. Like, how far have we gone? You know, from like Martin Luther King, you know, saying that, you know, he wants his children to be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, you know, their immutable characteristics. Whereas you have the modern leftist who's like, the color of my skin is everything.
Or self-annihilating, they just don't make
their
sexuality the very center of their beliefs. Plus, we have to give credit where it's due. The tradition,
and that's why that's all they talk about. That's why if you look at their Twitter bios, that's all it is. It's a bunch of shit that doesn't really matter. It's like, oh yeah, you know, person of color, like person of color, and then like, you know, I have this disease, by the way, I'm gay, these are my pronouns. Like, it's all about that. It's all about the categorization of these things that you can't do anything about. Some cases you can, but a lot of it is just characteristics like of you as a, you know, the characteristics that they say shouldn't matter is everything to them, basically. So it's kind of like, it's really a contradiction. It's a contradiction to say that, like, well, you know, those things shouldn't matter in society, but then you making that your entire thing.
Beliefs of each political party have shifted a lot. This idea that the entirety of the Republican Party is against gay marriage is just no longer true. Trump casually walks around carrying a rainbow flag and has made no effort to retract gay marriage like a lot of people said that he would try to. Every candidate has different values and goals. There are Republicans who hold some traditionally Democratic policies and vice versa. There's a big problem with purporting the idea that gay acceptance is something that could never exist on the right. Since when was the acceptance of gay people something to be gatekept by the left?
Yep. I've seen her before. Oh my god, see right here? This is what I was talking about right here. The next video, why Gen Z made sexuality their entire identity. I kind of do want to watch this. Here, let me link this to you guys real quick. Like, I really like this video. This is great. I'll link it to you guys. Give that a thumbs up. But I really do think it explains like a lot of like what's happening in society nowadays. People are just too obsessed with their characteristics.